Right now, there's a part of you that is tired of trying to hold everything together with sheer will. Not because you're weak, because you've been strong for a long time. And I want you to feel this with me gently in your body. Notice your breath. Notice the place where your shoulders lift, the place where your jaw tightens, the place where your belly braces as if it has to protect you from the future. You don't have to fix any of it right now. Just notice. When you trust the process, something very simple happens. You stop wrestling life, and life can finally meet you. And that's when things begin to fall into place. Not like a dramatic miracle, but like a door that opens because you stopped pushing on the wrong wall. So I want to give you the heart of it immediately, the part you can use today. Breathe in a little slower than usual, and as you exhale, imagine you're setting down a heavy bag you didn't realize you were carrying. Whisper inside yourself, I am safe to allow. If that feels too big, soften it. I am willing to allow, and let that be enough. Because forcing is often fear wearing the mask of responsibility. It says, if I don't control it, something will fall apart. It says, if I don't worry, I'll be blindsided. It says, if I stop pushing, I'll be left behind. And I understand that voice. It learned to protect you. But you are allowed to grow beyond survival. You are allowed to live from trust, not because you're pretending everything is perfect, but because you are choosing a kinder way to move through what is real. Trusting the process doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clenching. It means you stop treating every pause as a punishment. It means you remember that your life has a rhythm, and rhythm can't be bullied. Think of the ocean. It doesn't rush to prove itself. It comes in, it goes out. It reshapes the shore with patience. Your life can reshape itself with that same quiet power. You may be thinking, I've tried trusting and nothing happened. Sweetheart, trust isn't a bargain. It isn't, I'll relax if you give me proof. Trust is a way of being that creates the conditions for clarity. When you soften, you can hear yourself. When you stop spinning, you can see what's been there all along. When you stop chasing what runs on panic, what's meant for you has room to arrive. Perhaps you've experienced this. You're waiting for an answer, and your mind checks again and again. A message, a decision, a sign that you're okay. You refresh, you reread, you replay the conversation like it's a puzzle you can solve with effort. Your body stays on alert, and you call it being prepared. And then, on the day you finally get busy, when you laugh, or you cook, or you step outside for air, the answer comes. Not because life was teasing you, but because your system opened. You became available. Availability is a sacred word. It means, I am open to what supports me, not what proves me, not what saves me, what supports me. And here is where trust becomes practical. When you feel yourself spiraling, do this simple return. Name what is true right now, not what you fear, not what you predict. Just what is true. I'm here. I'm breathing. I feel anxious. I don't know yet. Then choose one loving action that belongs to you. 1. Drink water. Take a shower. Write the sentence. Make the call. Step outside. Clean a small surface. And then release the rest with one more breath. Tell yourself, I have done what is mine. That sentence alone can loosen a knot. You don't need the whole staircase. You only need the next step. Now let's talk to the part of you that feels behind, the part that looks around and thinks, everyone else is moving and I'm stuck. That part hurts. It can make your chest feel heavy, like you're watching the world pass you by. But timing is not a competition. Timing is a rhythm. A seed doesn't panic because the tree beside it is already tall. It stays underground, becoming root. And roots are not nothing. Roots are preparation for holding more life than you've ever held before. The in-between isn't empty. It's full of invisible rearranging. It's where your values get clearer. It's where your boundaries strengthen. It's where your nervous system learns that peace is allowed. It's where your intuition gets louder, not by shouting, but by finally being heard. Sometimes the process looks like endings that don't feel clean. Plans shift. People change their minds. The opportunity that looked perfect dissolves. And if you've been through that, you may interpret it as rejection. But sometimes those almost moments are protection. Sometimes they are redirected. Sometimes they are life refusing to let you settle for a version of your dream that would cost you your peace. Let me offer you a few gentle stories, the kind that remind your heart it's not alone. Perhaps you know someone who kept chasing what looked impressive on paper. They applied, they interviewed, they tried to be flawless, and every time something fell through right at the end, it felt humiliating, and it felt like proof they weren't good enough. And then, in the quiet space after another no, they admitted something honest. I don't even want that life. They wanted freedom. They wanted meaning. They wanted to wake up without dread. So they pivoted, not wildly, but thoughtfully. They learned a new skill. They followed a curiosity. They allowed themselves to be a beginner again. And what finally came wasn't the thing they were begging for. It was something that fit, something that didn't demand they abandon themselves. Or maybe your story is about love. You tried to fix a connection by becoming smaller, softer, easier. You answered quickly. You forgave too fast. You waited for consistency like it was a gift you had to earn. You told yourself it was just a rough patch, just bad timing, just stress. And your heart kept carrying the weight. One day you got tired, not bitter, just tired, and something inside you said, I'm allowed to be cherished. So you stopped explaining your worth. You stopped chasing. You let silence reveal the truth. And in that space, you either watched someone rise to meet you, or you watched the attachment fall away. Either way, what fell into place was your dignity, and that is never a loss. Or maybe your struggle is quieter and more personal. It's the pressure you put on yourself, the belief that you must earn rest, the fear that if you relax, you'll lose momentum, the habit of measuring your worth by productivity. If you've lived that way, your body can forget what ease feels like. So the process may begin with something almost invisible. You start speaking to yourself more kindly. You stop using shame as fuel. You let your pace be human. And as you do, your life begins to match your new standard. You choose people who don't require you to perform. You choose work that doesn't punish your nervous system. You choose days that feel like yours again. This is an important truth. Trusting the process is not the same as tolerating what hurts you. Trust does not ask you to accept crumbs. Trust does not ask you to ignore your intuition. Trust asks you to respect yourself so deeply that you no longer chase what requires you to betray your own heart. So how do you know you're trusting in a real way, not just repeating pretty words? You can feel it in your body. Trust feels like space. It feels like breathing. It feels like a softening behind the eyes. It feels like a quieter urge to prove yourself. It feels like you can wait without collapsing into panic. And there are gentle signs that your life is rearranging when you stop forcing. You start caring less about controlling other people's timing. You stop interpreting every delay as a verdict on your worth. Your decisions become simpler, not always easy, but simpler. You might still feel nervous, but you can sense what is a yes and what is a no more clearly. And your body starts telling the truth sooner. A tightness when something isn't aligned, a warmth when it is. Your body has always been honest. You're just learning to listen. Now there's a deeper layer of trust that many people miss. Trust isn't only things will work out. Trust is I will be okay as things you unfold. That is power, because it puts safety inside you, not outside you. It says, I can see what comes. I can ask for help. I can adapt. I can begin again. This kind of trust doesn't depend on perfect circumstances. It grows from self-relationship. So try this with me. Place a hand over your heart if that feels comfortable. Feel the warmth. Feel the steady rhythm that has carried you through every single day, even the hard ones. And say softly, I am held. If that feels too much, say, I am willing to believe I am held. Willingness is a doorway. You don't have to leap. You can step. Sometimes we imagine that if we trust, we won't feel fear anymore. But fear can still appear. It just doesn't get to drive. It can sit in the back seat, and you can still choose the next loving step. There is a reason things fall into place when you soften your grip. When you stop forcing, you stop pushing against what's trying to complete. Some chapters are meant to end. Some versions of you are meant to be released. Think of a tree in autumn. It doesn't argue with the season. It lets go. It trusts the cycle. And that letting go is what makes room for the next growth. You are allowed to have seasons too. You are allowed to shed what no longer fits, even if it once kept you safe. And yes, shedding can feel like loss. You might feel tender. You might feel less motivated. You might feel like your old strategies don't work anymore. That isn't failure. That is evolution. Your spirit is asking for a new way. Here is another small practice that can keep you steady. I call it 1 degree. You don't need to overhaul your life. You don't need to force a breakthrough. You only need to shift 1 degree toward love. 1 kinder thought, 1 honest boundary, 1 moment of rest, 1 small action that honors your truth. 1 degree repeated becomes a new direction, and a new direction changes what you meet. If your mind says, "But what if I make the wrong choice?" remember this: the process includes learning. You are not being graded. You are growing. You can course correct. You can pivot. You can forgive yourself. Trust is not demanding perfection. Trust is giving yourself permission to be human while staying devoted to what matters. Often the urge to control comes from a tender place. Control can be a way of trying to avoid disappointment. It can be a way of trying to prevent grief. If you've been let down before, your heart has learned to stay guarded. Of course it did. So instead of fighting that part of you, you can comfort it. Imagine a younger version of you. Maybe you can see them. Maybe you can simply feel them. They're trying so hard. If you could speak to them now, you might say, "Thank you for protecting me. I'm here now. We can soften." That kind of inner kindness is not childish. It is medicine for the soul. It creates safety from the inside out. And when safety grows inside you, receiving becomes easier. This is another reason people feel stuck. They work hard. They visualize. They plan. They try to do it right, but they're still bracing for disappointment. It's hard to receive while you're scanning for what could go wrong. Receiving requires open hands. It requires you to believe you don't have to earn every good thing through struggle. You are allowed to be supported. So keep your intention, yes. Keep your devotion, yes. But release the demand that it arrives through 1 narrow door. Life has more doors than your mind can imagine. Sometimes what you want isn't being withheld. It's being reshaped. You may think you want a specific outcome, but what you truly want is the feeling underneath it. Peace, freedom, love, belonging, purpose. When you connect to that essence, you open to the ways it can arrive. Here's a gentle question to hold. What are you trying to force that would feel so much better if it were chosen freely? Let that question sit like a pebble in your pocket. You don't have to answer perfectly. Just let it guide you toward honesty. And if the process right now looks like a pause, don't rush to label it as wasted time. A pause can be sacred. It can be the moment you finally hear your own voice again. It can be the space where your priorities reorder themselves. It can be the place where you remember what matters more than proving yourself. Sometimes falling into place begins with you choosing your peace over your panic. You sleep a little more. You say no to what drains you. You stop apologizing for having needs. You take care of your energy as if it matters, because it does. And as you do, the world starts responding. The right people feel easier. The right opportunities feel lighter. The right decisions feel clearer. Not because you controlled them, but because you stopped abandoning yourself. When you're tempted to panic, ask yourself this: what would I do right now if I trusted that I'm being guided? Often the answer is simple. I would drink water. I would stop checking my phone. I would take a walk. I would write the email. I would rest. That answer is your next aligned step. And aligned steps, taken consistently, create aligned lives. Perhaps you've experienced it with something as ordinary as a home. You scroll listings, you compare, you worry, and you tell yourself you have to decide immediately or you'll miss your chance. Every option feels wrong because you're choosing from tension. Then you pause. You stop searching for a day. You rest your eyes. You let yourself imagine how you want to feel when you walk through the door. Safe, spacious, welcomed. And from that softer place, you notice the right detail. A friend mentions an opening you hadn't seen. You pass a street you never considered. You step into a viewing and your chest loosens. The place isn't perfect on paper, but your body says yes. It wasn't that life finally cooperated because you forced it harder. It's that you become available to recognize what fit. And this is how it often works with your creative life too. When you try to squeeze inspiration out of yourself, it hides. When you give yourself permission to be imperfect, ideas return. You write one honest line. You make one small draft. You show up without demanding brilliance. And then momentum arrives, not like a whip, but like a gentle wind at your back. The process loves sincerity. It loves steadiness. And it loves the kind of effort that isn't frantic but devoted. And remember, everything falling into place doesn't always look like getting everything you asked for. Sometimes it looks like getting something truer, something that fits you without strain, something that doesn't require you to perform, something that gives your nervous system permission to exhale. That is a very real kind of abundance, the abundance of peace. If you have been disappointed, I want to honor that. It can make your heart cautious. It can make hope feel dangerous. But trust doesn't ask you to be naive. Trust asks you to be rooted, open-eyed and open-hearted at the same time. It asks you to let your life be intelligent. It asks you to stop punishing yourself for not knowing the exact timing of things you have never lived before. So let this be your steady statement, the one you return to when your mind gets loud. I trust the timing of my life. If that feels too bold, soften it. I am learning to trust the timing of my life. Feel the difference. Feel how kindness makes space. That space is where guidance can enter. In the coming days, you may notice small shifts, a little more patience, a little less urgency, a clearer sense of what you will and won't tolerate. Let those shifts be enough. Let them be proof that you are changing from the inside, and the outside will follow in its own perfect rhythm. And now, as we close this moment together, give yourself permission to loosen your grip. Let your shoulders drop a fraction. Let your jaw soften. Let your breath remind you that you are here and you are alive and you are capable of meeting what comes. May you be guided toward what is kind. May you be guided toward what is true. May you be guided toward what honors your peace. May you remember that you do not have to chase what is meant for you, and may you feel, even softly, that you are worthy right now, before anything works out, before anything is proven, simply because you exist. You can come back to this whenever you need to remember. For now, take one more breath and tell yourself, I have done what is mine. The next step will be shown. And then allow life to meet you gently. Allow what belongs with you to find you. Allow the process to carry you. You are not alone.